Washington Journal continues.
Warren Farrell is our guest. He is the co-author of a book called The Boy Crisis, also serves as the chair to commission to create a White House Council on Boys to Men. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
When you say crisis, how do you define that?
That's a very high bar for me. I don't like words like that. So boys are doing badly in every single academic subject, including reading and writing, which are the biggest predictors of success, in all 56 of the largest developed nations in the world. But boys are doing especially badly here in the United States. There's not a good preparation for boys who are less academically inclined. Vocational education has been cut back. So boys are often dropping out of high school, become discipline problems. They have no sense of purpose. They start getting into drugs. And then when they drop out of high school, more than 20% are unemployed in their early 20s, which is 5 times the national average. And so boys are doing very badly mental health-wise. The suicide rate for boys and girls at the age of 9 is equal. But between the ages of 10 and 14, it becomes twice as much for boys. Between 15 and 19, 4 times as much for boys. Between 20 and 24, 5 times as much for boys. And so
you don't see those type of trends amongst girls then as well, or this is specifically a boy issue?
This is a boy issue. Actually, boys' life expectancy has for the first time gone down. Girls has remained the same. So girls' life expectancy isn't doing as well as we want either. But what I found is that I started looking, what's the common denominator of all the developed nations? And the developed nations allow permission for 2 things, for divorce and for being able to have children raised without dads. And the boy crisis, I found, basically resides where fathers do not reside.
So as far as when did you think this was, when did you get a sense of this was a problem? When was this an emergency or a concern of yours?
Yeah, one of my previous book tours, I was getting Japanese teachers coming up to me and saying, you know, I'm having more problems with boys in my class than the girls. Canada, Australia, the United States, I was getting the same types of questions, especially from mothers and teachers, but teachers were seeing it in the larger picture. You know, schools were saying, you know, most of our honor students in our honor society are girls, not boys. But people were saying, well, you know, boys are still, you know, largely the heads of companies and things like this. So what's the big problem? But boys were also the great majority of the homeless, the great majority of the people dying from drug overdoses and opioid crises. And so, yes, males were sort of a certain percentage, a small percentage, were rising to the top. But I found that the people that were rising to the top were, to the large degree, the people that were the happiest, the good fathers. They were children that were raised, that had a lot of father involvement. Now, this is girls are suffering from the lack of father involvement too, I found. But they suffer the boys and girls suffer in about 70 different ways from the lack of father involvement. But the girls tend to suffer in slightly different ways and not as severely. The boys are more likely to commit the suicide, the drug overdoses, the withdrawal, the addiction to video games, the addiction to porn. Those are more boy things. And there's, as I said, 70 major parental nightmares that happen with the boys and girls that don't have the father involvement.